Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Dhirayet. Nashtaprayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavatiruttama-shloke bhaktir-bhavati naishtiki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya cha Nanda-gopa-kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna. Good morning to you all. We are, wasn't it 1084, 14 and 15 today? Yeah. Actually, can you make me co-host, Prabhu? I'll share the verse. Yeah. We are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, the Samam Bonam, Chapter 84, the Sage's Teachings at Kurukshetra. And we'll be covering verses 14 and 15 today. So, here it goes. Verse 14. Shri Shuka Uvacha. We could, yeah. Nishamyetam Bhagavataha. Nishamyetam Bhagavataha. Krishnasya Kuntamedasaha. Krishnasya Kuntamedasaha. Vacho Duran Vayam Vipras. Vacho Duran Vayam Vipras. Tushnim Asan Brahmad Diyaha. Tushnim Asan Brahmad Diyaha. Translation. Shukdev Goswami said, hearing such unfathomable words from the unlimitedly wise Lord Krishna, the learned Brahmanas remained silent, their minds bewildered. Text 15. Chiram Vimrashya Munaya. Chiram Vimrashya Munaya. Ishwarasye-shitavyatam. Ishwarasye-shitavyatam. Jana-sangraha itya-uchu. Jana-sangraha itya-uchu. Smayantastam jagadgurum. Smayantastam jagadgurum. So we'll do the word to word for this. Chiram, Chiram. For some time.
For some time.
Vimrishya, thinking. Munayaha, the sages. Ishwarasya, of the Supreme Controller. Ishitavyatam, the status of being controlled. Janasangraha, the enlightenment of the people in general. Iti, thus, concluding. Uchu, they said. Smayantaha, smiling. Tam, to him. Jagat, of the universe. Gurum, the spiritual master. Translation. For some time, the sages pondered the Supreme Lord's behavior, which resembled that of a subordinate living being. They concluded that he was acting in this way to instruct the people in general. Thus they smiled and spoke to him, the spiritual master of the universe. Purport by the disciples of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. Srila Sridhara Swami explains the word Ishitavyata as referring to one's not being a controller, or in other words, to being under the law of karma, obliged to work and experience the results of one's work. While addressing the sages, Lord Krishna accepted the role of a subordinate living being to emphasize the importance of hearing and serving saintly Vaishnavas. The personality of Godhead is also the supreme teacher of spiritual surrender. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamanyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guroho Shri Yuta Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Madan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namo Mahadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gauratvishe Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Kanta Radha Stute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindaveshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam Karoti Vachalam Anghum Langhayate Kripatamaham Vande Shri Gurum Veerataranam. So Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Thank you all for joining. I offer my sincere obeisances and I seek blessings from all of you revered Vaishnavas, my spiritual uncle, Adipurush Prabhu, Arjuna Prabhu, if he's there on Zoom, so that we can discuss something and uplift each other to go closer to Krishna and in line with the Guru Parampara. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So, very beautiful verses. Lord Krishna here, he is a very nice play of words. So this in the 15th verse, Ishwarasya and Ishitavyatam. So Krishna is the supreme controller, Ishwara Paramaha Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha. Yet here he is posing himself as if he is the one being controlled. He is posing himself to be a subordinate living being. And one thing I was contemplating on this is that the response of the sages to the Lord's words, to the Lord's behavior, right? It does say that the sages got bewildered, but they didn't get bewildered with pride. They got bewildered. They were thinking, "Oh, what is this going on?" Like when I'm on the receiving end of some glorification from a senior Vaishnava, for example, I have this tendency to feel, "Oh, this devotee is glorifying me. This person is glorifying me. Maybe I am something. Maybe I am." So that kind of a tendency. But the sages did not feel like that. The sages, they just fell silent and they were contemplating as to why the Lord is saying like this. And a lot of the sages that are present here, they are actually quoted by Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita. So in the 10th chapter where Arjuna says, Param Brahma Param Dhama Pavitram Paramam Bhavan Purusham Shashvatam Divyam Adidevam Ajam Vimukhi. He is glorifying Krishna. You're Param Brahma, you're the supreme Brahman, you're Param Dhama, you're the supreme abode. You're the purest, and so on. And then he backs up his claim. He backs up his claim by saying that Ahustvam Rishayas Sarve Devarshir Naradas Tatha Asito Devalo Vyasaha Swayam Chaiva Bravishime. So, dear Lord, the fact that you're the Supreme Lord, this is not something I am saying. This is not something only I am saying. This is something that these sages have said as well. And who are those sages? Asita, Devala, Vyasa, Narad Muni. And all these sages are present here. And they know Krishna's position. Eshavai Bhagavan Sakshat Adyo Narayana Puman, Bhishma Pitamaha says. This Krishna, he's the Bhagavan Sakshat, he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, standing right here. And he's the original Narayan. Yet, he has covered everyone in such an illusion, and it seems as if he's one of the Vrishnis, or he's one of the Yadus. He's walking among the Yadus as a normal person, like that. Of course, Krishna does do extraordinary things when it's needed. But that's what Bhishma Pitama is, and all these Mahajanas, these great devotees, they know the position of Krishna, and it's interesting to see their humility. It's the Supreme Lord is glorifying them, the Supreme Lord is being subordinate to them, but they are not. It's not getting to their heads, so to say. So that's a nice example for us also. The Lord is portraying an example of surrendering to the Vaishnavas, but here actually even the sages are portraying an example of how to surrender to the Lord in humility. So it is interesting. Once Radhesham Prabhu, he asked a question to Bhakti Charu Swami. So he asked if Maharaj, is humility a quality that can be cultivated, or is it something that is naturally there as a gift from Krishna? And then Bhakti Charu Maharaj, he answered this very nicely. He said, of course, humility can be cultivated. And the way to cultivate humility is when we study the Shastras, when we try to understand Krishna and how great he is. We know in theory that Krishna is great, God is great. But when we actually study the Shastras to understand how great Krishna is, and when we get to know the greatness of Krishna, then that has a concomitant effect of us understanding how insignificant we are. Of course, provided there is the right guidance, there is the right framework, the right humility that we have. So when we genuinely compare our position to the position of Krishna, we'll immediately become humble, is what he said. Now, this is an interesting, synergy actually, again, a symbiotic effect. So Krishna says in the Gita that he lists out all the qualities, all the characteristics of someone in knowledge. And the first two characteristics are amanitvam and adambhitvam. So there are many, Krishna lists out many qualities, amanitvam, adambhitvam, ahimsa, kshantir, arjavam, and so on. But the first two are humility and pridelessness. So it's like a symbiotic effect. We need some humility to begin with to get knowledge. And with that humility, when we acquire knowledge by hearing and serving the great souls, that knowledge in turn enriches our humility and deepens our humility towards the Lord. So that way, there is like that symbiotic effect that is going on. And that is why these sages, because they are very humble, they have realized the true essence of knowledge. They fell silent for a while. They are contemplating as to why the Lord is doing this. And finally, they conclude that, Krishna's pastimes, it says in one of the purports in one of the previous verses, 49th chapter, it says that Krishna's pastimes are not just entertaining, but they are also didactic. So they also teach lessons, right? And the greatest lesson, actually, Prabhupada writes in the 12th chapter in one of the purports, the greatest lesson that Krishna is trying to teach us is that we are, he's performing these pastimes, these wonderful pastimes in this material world for us to develop an attraction towards him, for us to give a glimpse of what it is like in the spiritual world. So like that, Krishna is trying to teach us. He does teach us things that we need to do in this world. Like we need to, he's washing the feet of Sudama. So he's teaching the respect that we need to show towards Brahmanas. He's in this particular section, he's teaching us how to hear from and how to serve the Vaishnavas, the great saintly persons. Then in Sandipuni Muni's case, he is showing how we should surrender to our Guru, how we should inquire from our Guru. So in this way, and I guess the most profound, so to say, activity of Krishna, where he's teaching us something, right, is when he appears as Lord Chaitanya. He's teaching us to be the supreme, he's the supreme Lord, yet he's descending to teach us how to be the topmost devotee. I was hearing a class by Bhakti Prem Swami. He gave this class in London actually, and he mentioned Jai Nitai Prabhu in that class. So it was a pleasant thing for me to hear. And there he says that Krishna is the topmost in everything. So he's the topmost in everything. So when it comes to surrender, he's the topmost person who is surrendered. And there is this book called Experiences in Bhakti by Dr. OBL Kapoor Adikeshav Prabhu. He is the god brother of Srila Prabhupada. And in that he writes something interesting. The Lord is actually a very surrendered person. And how does that surrender translate in a sadhaka's life? So when we perform sadhana bhakti, when we are trying to follow these principles, these regulations, and we are trying to surrender to Krishna, actually Krishna is also surrendering to us in proportionality, of course. But then he says that surrender on the part of the Lord is nothing but grace. So when the Lord surrenders, he awards us with grace, and that way there is a reciprocation going on. So again, very interesting point. But so here it is mentioned about hearing and serving the great saintly persons. So in my own experience, I remember one of my entry points into Krishna consciousness was through this course of philosophy in college. And where I studied that college, there are many devotees over there. Like it is filled with devotees. So then in that college, they had this philosophy course. And it was a lot of our philosophy, Krishna conscious philosophy, and there was some of Plato, Socrates, and whatnot. And so then that's where I got introduced to Krishna consciousness in a very deep way. So there, I remember after the course was completed, my mentor told me, like he became my mentor later on. He told me that now you've heard the theory. Now let's do the practical. Let's go to the temple. So it was Balaram Jayanti, I remember. So we went to the temple, and there I got my first seva. So hearing and serving, right? So that's what deepens our bhakti. In the 5th canto, Lord Rishabh Devi says, Mahat Sevam Dwaram Ahur Vimukte Stamodwaram Yoshitam Sangi Sangam. So he says that, Mahat Sevam, this service to the great souls, is the Dwaram Ahur Vimukte, is the through service to the great souls, doors to liberation are open, doors to Vimukti, they open. And in the Chaitanya Charitamrit, Srila Sanatan Goswami, he says that, he quotes that famous verse, Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhya Kapu, Shravanadi Shuddhe Chitte Koraya Uday. So pure love for Krishna is eternally established in the hearts of the living entities. It is not something that needs to be gained by some other source, but it needs to be awakened. And the process to awaken that is by hearing from great saintly persons, hearing the Shastras that the Lord has spoken and whatnot. So this hearing, Acharyas say, that is the real sadhu sangha. So when we hear in the association of devotees, it powerfully awakens the love that we have for Krishna in our hearts. The analogy is given of wood. So wood is not fire, yet the power of the sun, which is fire, is there in a latent form in the wood. So a seed is sown. With the sun's power, the seed grows into a tree, and then wood is taken out of that tree. Now, the wood is not fire, but then the potency to burn is there in the wood. So similarly, we as spirit souls, we are like that wood who have the potency to invoke our true Krishna consciousness that is there in us. And when this wood is brought into the contact of fire, it starts burning. It starts giving out the same energy as the sun, which is heat and fire, light. Like that, similarly, that burning of the wood is similar to our hearing in the association of Vaishnavas. Shravanadi Shuddhe Chitte. So when we hear in the association of Vaishnavas, it's like putting fire to that wood. And sometimes we can't even see our own love for God. We can't even see our love for God, especially when there is a stormy day in our life, right? Like the mind is just being so obstinate, and things are all not working out, and it's just crazy. But even then, when we make that effort to hear, that thing is happening. The fire is being invoked, although we may not know it, we may not perceive it directly. So yes, that is the power of sound. That is the power of hearing and serving the great Vaishnavas. So even between hearing and serving, there is a synergistic relationship. There is like a symbiotic relationship. When we hear Shravanadi Shuddha Chitte Karaya Uday, so it invokes that love for Krishna. And how does that translate into practical life? That translates as service. So that hearing, when we hear Krishna, we understand that yes, I need to serve Krishna with my senses, and then that we serve. And then by serving these great souls, by serving Krishna, what happens? It enriches our hearing. It gives us taste for hearing. What is that verse? Shushrusho Shaddhanasya Vasudeva Katarji Syan Mahat Sevaya Vipra Punya Tirtha Nishevana. So by that hearing, by that service actually to the great souls, the hearing, we get taste in hearing the glories of the Lord. But anyway, a lot can be said about that. And Prabhupada writes a very nice statement in one of the purports in Chaitanya Charitamrita. He says that we don't have to be a polished literary person to get knowledge of Krishna. And he says we just need to be expert in hearing. That's it. So we don't have to be like, we don't have to, we have to study, of course, but then that study is not for the sake of it. That study is to understand Krishna, and we hear from the great souls, and that's what Prabhupada also exemplified in his life. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says he has marked him. He doesn't go away. He sits and hears. That was the glory of Prabhupada. So Prabhupada actually exemplified both these things: hearing from a saintly person, serving a saintly person. He served Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. We were discussing the other day how Prabhupada's life, he as soon as he got that instruction from Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he was in some way or the other trying to fulfill that instruction. He started the Back to Godhead magazine. He was assisting his god brothers in the Gaudiya Mutt, and then he was trying to preach, and then he took sannyas. There is like an 11 years milestone we were discussing at 26th Avenue the other day. So, hearing and serving great souls is not actually a choice. It's a choice. We have to choose to do that, but it's a privilege. And by Prabhupada's mercy, we are getting that in a very, very easy way. Like I can say personally, I didn't have to struggle the way so many of us struggled to get Krishna consciousness. It was given to me on a platter. So it might seem that, oh yeah, nice. It's there. The opportunity to hear and serve is there. If required, I'll do it. No, it's not something like, it's a privilege. It's a privilege, and it's very rare that we are getting this opportunity in the Western world by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. And so that's the glory of hearing and serving. So I have so many other things that can be spoken about, but I'll just open it up for discussions. 7:40. Yeah.
Thank you, Jagannath Gopal Prabhu. Wonderful class. It's an in-person day, so if we have a hand in the temple room, they can have the floor. Janitaiza, okay.
Yeah, just reflecting. You made a really wonderful point there that's sometimes overlooked about humility. And sometimes we might have the tendency to think that humility consists of only how low, insignificant, fallen I am. I'm very low, I'm very low, I'm very low. But you mentioned that part of humility, an integral part of humility, is to glorify Krishna. If we put the two of them together, I'm very fallen, but Krishna is so kind and so wonderful that he's caring for me, reaching out for me, and uplifting me. So That was a really special point. Those two things go hand in hand. And then you made another point later that was also very interesting. Slips my mind. Maybe I'll remember in a few minutes. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Hi, Krishna Prabhu. First I wanted to thank you very much for your class. Very inspiring. I kind of just wanted you to keep going because it was so nectar. You're quoting so many verses and bringing up so many good points. And the one about, you were mentioning about surrender. And you said something, I should have written it down, but you said something about when Krishna surrenders, because he's the topmost at everything.
Yes.
So he's also the topmost at surrendering.
Correct.
So he surrenders to the devotees.
Yes.
And when he does, you said something about it being grace.
Yes.
And part of my question is if you could expand on that. That's part one. Just that understanding of that idea of grace there when Krishna surrenders to the devotees. But the other part is just this whole idea of surrender. And I was just speaking with some devotees the other day around this idea of surrender. And it's like, we have to let go and let God. There's a kind of saying that's going around. We have to let go and let God. And then where do you find the balance between apparently letting go and still trying to be an instrument? And it comes to mind is that verse, or not a verse, but saying that God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And so I'm just wondering if you can expand on these 2 points. One is the principle of Krishna, surrender being grace, and then also what surrender looks like for devotees.
So this Krishna surrendering, this is actually, I was also very surprised and moved when I read that. So one thing is that Krishna is yearning for our love. Krishna is, I mentioned this once before also, Krishna is the Atmaram. He is supremely satisfied. He doesn't need anything. Yet he is yearning for the love of each and every jiva. And when a jiva starts turning towards God, then Krishna is so happy about it. So a jiva can turn towards God, towards Krishna in so many ways, 4 primary ways that Bhagavad Gita mentions. Chaturvida bhajante mam jana sukrit. Artho jitnyasu arthati, distressed, desirer of wealth, inquisitive, and one who is in search of knowledge. So there are all these ways that jiva can turn towards God. And then Krishna calls them udara, all these 4 categories as udara or magnanimous. So one might think, oh my God, what is this going on? If somebody is going to Krishna for something, like for some ulterior motive also, Krishna is calling them udara. Of course, he does say in that the topmost of these 4 is the one who is in the search of the absolute truth, in knowledge. Yet he says that all these 4 categories, people in these 4 categories are magnanimous. So the way I understood that statement about surrender is, so Krishna is ready to reciprocate with us. So when we try to surrender, Krishna also tries to surrender. And that surrender of Krishna, actually, it translates in our life as clearing out certain things, clearing out the way for us to go closer to Krishna. So as soon as we want to turn towards Krishna, Krishna will mysteriously, he will bring us to the association of devotees. He will, it's very interesting. Like last year when we went to New Vrindavan, we were having a debate on like just a fun debate, and the statement was, does Krishna reciprocate with us every moment? Every moment was the debate. And then there was a team that was for it, there was a team that was against it, and then but we'll not get into the arguments, but the point is that yes, Krishna does reciprocate every moment. He's waiting for us to turn towards him. Like I remember, I think this was this comes in Leelamrit also. It's like, was it Hayagriva Prabhu and I think Hayagriva Prabhu. Hayagriva Prabhu and I think one more devotee, they had already gone to India in search of the absolute truth, in search of God. And then one day he's walking in the streets of New York and he just finds Srila Prabhupada. So on one hand, we could say it's a coincidence, but on the other hand, we could see it as Krishna's reciprocation, Krishna's grace. So when we try to surrender to Krishna, Krishna actually clears out the pathway for us. And when Krishna clears out the pathway, we can go more, smoother to Krishna. So, that is about surrender. That's how I understood it. And then finally, when the sadhaka, and it's proportional. Ye yathamam prapadyante. So as much as we surrender, Krishna will reciprocate that much. And then, and that surrender has to be in the guidance of Vaishnavas. We can't do like a premature thing and then out of my own, because I am imperfect in my thinking and I can't define surrender that this is surrender. I have to do it under the guidance of Guru Sadhu Shastra. And then the topmost level where this surrender is like at its epitome is that verse in the 9th canto where Aham Bhakta Paradhina. So Krishna is saying, I am Paradhina. It's as if I am controlled by my devotee. It's as if I have lost my independence. Ya aswatantra ivadvija. Swatantra is independence, and Krishna is saying, I am aswatantra. I become aswatantra when a pure devotee, for a pure devotee. It's as if I've lost my independence, Krishna is saying. So that is the epitome of that surrender. That Krishna, when he gives himself to us, so initially he gives himself to us by clearing out the way towards him. And then finally he just gives himself to us to such an extent that he's saying that I've lost my independence. So so that's how Krishna is exemplifying this topmost surrender. And the other point about, can you repeat that, Prabhu? Just
when the devotee tries to surrender, where's what does that look like? Where's the point where we just let go and let God, or the point where we grab hold and try to serve or embrace something?
That's a very interesting point, and that is very individualistic also. And again, there the individual guidance comes, and so Chaitanya Sharan Prabhu, to reiterate your point, Chaitanya Sharan Prabhu says that when we offer our love to someone, there are two things that happen. Two things that are actually that define that love, or rather are characteristics of that love. So what can we give to the beloved, and what can we give up for the beloved? So there are two things that happen. And now there is this thing also that giving up needs to be done in guidance. And there is this another interesting discussion we were having the other day where Kardam Muni, right, in the 3rd canto. So it's interesting that Kardam Muni, we are studying that section right now. So Kardam Muni, he performed his austerities for many thousands of years, and he got the darshan of the Lord face to face. And then he got the darshan of the Lord, and he's saying to the Lord, "You're very nice, dear Lord, but I want a wife, a nice wife. So please help me, get a nice wife." So, you contrast that with Dhruv Maharaj, who, when he saw the Lord, he's saying that, "Oh, I was looking for pieces of glass, and I've got diamond. I don't want this kingdom anymore." So then we were discussing this point that dependence on the Lord, surrender unto the Lord, right? So there are two statements, and my contemplation is both statements point to surrender. The first statement is, "Dear Lord, I will not ask you for anything I want," is the first statement. "I'll depend on you." The second statement is, "Dear Lord, I will not ask anyone but you for anything I want." So the first statement is, I'll not ask you for anything I want, and the second is, I'll not ask anyone but you for anything I want. So now I was thinking, although in the second case we are asking the Lord for something, but then there is a genuineness to accept that, yes, I am here, and this is where I am, and this is from where I need to go towards sincerity. So it's not always that I need to give up, but it's also how I can, how much true I am being to my own self and to where I am. So something I have to learn also. So yeah, I guess some thoughts on that.
Seems no one in the temple room has any more questions. And then the Bihari Prabhu. Bihari.
Bihari, yeah, it's my new hero. Bhima Prabhu.
I just wanted to say, Jagannath, that it's really nice to hear the sages speak. When I listen to you and how you circumambulate the philosophy like in an embrace of Krishna's word, I say to myself, I'm convinced, like while you speak, because you're so shastric and so reasonable. And of course, you always turn about the center of bhakti rather than gyan. You always are turning it back to the love. So I really appreciate that. Thank you for the wonderful class. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
See, Jagannath Gopal Prabhu is speaking and Bhima Prabhu is convinced. That's how bhakti works. Jagannath Gopal Prabhu does the job, but Bhima Prabhu is getting convinced. Nice.
Kindness. Gaurcharan Prabhu had mentioned the other day, right? The faith to serve Krishna and to go closer to Krishna comes through Krishna himself. So Krishna is the one who awards that. Yeah. So yeah, this is just the glory of all the Vaishnavas. So this hearing and serving is so potent that even to prepare for a class, you hear. it's very integral to our Krishna consciousness actually. So you want to prepare for a class, you hear. You want to nourish your own self, you hear. And, if
No one else is raising their hand, so maybe if you have some other.
I have something that I was going to cover, but I didn't have like a proper framework to like I couldn't zero in on one proper framework, but then I'll still share it, whatever I have. So Krishna performs many activities in this world, and so question for all of you, what is the word that describes Krishna's birth and activities? In the Gita, Krishna says, my birth and activities are
Divine.
Transcendental,
divine, yes.
Janma
So Janma Karma Chame Divyam. So all of the activities of Krishna are Divyam. Now within that, I was trying to think of what kind of activities Krishna does and how does it look like when we have to follow in his footsteps. So there is one category of activities that Krishna does that are superhuman, that they go beyond all our conceptions of possibility and impossibility. The killing of the demons in Vrindavan, or lifting the Govardhan hill with his pinky finger, covering the sun with his Sudarshan Chakra, and whatnot. Right, going into the womb of Uttara and saving Parikshit Maharaj. These are superhuman activities. We won't be able to follow them even if we wanted to. And then the second category is this is a little controversial, but the second category is the activities that seem unethical from a material sense, but they're actually beyond any morality and immorality. So these are activities like the Ras Leela, Krishna dancing with young girls, or asking Arjuna to kill Karna when he was weaponless and he was outside his chariot, or asking Yudhishthir to lie. So in order to defeat Dronacharya in the Mahabharata war, Krishna told Yudhishthir to lie. He told Yudhishthir, just say that Ashwatthama is dead. And then Yudhishthir is like, how can I lie? He's Dharmaraj, Yudhishthir. How can I lie? And then finally, he's hesitating. And then Bhima, he goes and kills an elephant whose name was Ashwatthama. And then he says, I've done this, now you say what Krishna is telling you to do. Then he said, Ashwatthama is dead. And that's how they defeated Drona. So there is this category of activities that Krishna does which seem unethical in one sense. And this is actually a problem for many, especially in India. They are like, how can you say that Krishna is God, but then how can he do such things? How can he be unfair? Right? But then this category needs to be understood properly. All that he does, actually, he does in the mood of dharma samstharpanartha, to establish the true principles of religion. That is one point. And the second is to protect his devotees. So Krishna loves his devotees so much that he can go against his own world. And that is why in the Gita, Krishna tells Arjuna to proclaim that Krishna's devotees never vanquish. So he could have said that on his own, but then Krishna knows that he might break his word to protect the devotee. So he's telling Arjuna to say to the world that, my devotee is never vanquished. And then the third category is the category of activities that Krishna is doing in this section, where he's setting an example for us. And, like respecting the Brahmanas and cows, saintly people, respecting our Guru. As Lord Ramachandra, he comes as the ideal human being. And the topmost devotee, Lord Chaitanya, and so on. So these three categories. Now, the third category is which we can directly follow. The second category is something that we should not follow. We can't be unethical in the name of Krishna consciousness in this world. And the first category, superhuman activities, we won't be able to follow even if we wanted. So then now the differentiation comes through Guru Sadhu Shastra. How do we understand? How do I understand whether I should follow this or not? That's where we refer to the Gurus, we refer to the Sadhus, and they will tell us that Tattvadarshi, right? So Tadviti Pranipatena Pariprashrena Sevaya Upadekshanti Jnanam Jnaninas Tattvadarshina. So seers of truth. So these seers of truth, they see, what does seeing mean, right? It's another very deep point we could contemplate on. What does seeing really mean? Krishna is saying, go to the seers of truth. What does seeing the truth really mean? So these seers of truth, they are seeing the material world from one perspective, and they are connected to the Lord constantly, and they will help us see the truth. They will help us see the truth about the Lord. They will help us see the truth about the material world as well. So that is why Krishna says, go to the seers of truth, and they will actually tell us of these categories which we should follow, which we should not follow. And even in that second category that I mentioned, Krishna is doing it for the love of his devotees. He's doing it to protect his devotees. So that is the lesson there. It's not that there is no lesson there. So as Prabhupada mentions in that 12th chapter purport, the Krishna is trying to teach us that not only does he come, but he personally displays his pastimes in Vrindavan and attracts people to spiritual enjoyment. So he's trying to attract us. So when we see that love for his devotees and we see that Krishna is going to any lengths for that love, then it gives us faith. It gives us attraction to Krishna. So, yeah, that's all I had. Sorry for all the rambling. So
It wasn't rambling, Prabhu. It was pure nectar flowing.
Prabhu, I had a quick question.
Yes, Prabhuji.
The Leela and the explanation of what he's teaching us and stuff, could it be that Krishna's just having a good time, and because it's Krishna having a good time, or doing some battles, dancing with the gopis, laying back on the bank of the Jamuna in a full moon? I mean, isn't that just Krishna having a good time, and because it's Krishna that we learn something, rather than Krishna's doing this to teach us stuff?
Yeah, definitely. Like I was talking to Gorshan Prabhu one day. Like he was saying that, like when we hear Leelas of Krishna, I was in this phase at one point where whatever Leela I would hear, I would think, what do I have? What is in it for me? What do I learn from this? But he was pointing out to me that sometimes it's not about learning, it's just about relishing what Krishna is doing. It's just about hearing, like Janma Karma Chame, those who know my activities in truth, they will come back to me, Krishna is saying. And yes, there is that aspect of getting lessons from it, but sometimes it's just, we just need to hear Krishna's Leelas. We just need to hear Krishna having a good time. There is no particular lesson that could be drawn from such activities. So yeah, definitely, Prabhu. Thanks for pointing that out. Actually, there are some Leelas that we just need to relish. We just need to wow, Krishna is so wonderful. He's just sitting on the Yamuna and enjoying with his devotees. So, Hare Krishna.
Haribo.
Jai. Okay, dear devotees, let's be seen by the Lord. Put on your best look. Bhima, put this soul horse manure away, just for the time of darshan. Take off your hat. Be a gentleman. The other one too. Okay, it's a joke. Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Let us see our spiritual master when we wait.
Devotional service. Bow down to those with great awe and reverence. By His grace one can cross the ocean of material suffering. Pay in the mercy of Krishna. I only wish to have my conscience purified by the words emanating from His lotus mouth. The action to His perfection that fulfills all desires. He opens my eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord, birth after birth. From an ecstatic prema emanates, my ignorance is destroyed. Vedic scriptures sing of His character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, friend of the poor and the Lord and master of the devotees. Oh, Master, be merciful unto us. Give us the shade of your lotus feet. May your fame be spread all over the three worlds. We take shelter at your lotus feet. Jai.
Jai Srila Prabhupada. Welcome to the Afterglow, dear devotees. I have a quick reflection. Herein is a mystical process where Krishna is in the equation. And we come to hear from the Bhagavatam, not necessarily to get something out of it, which is also there. We want to get uplifted, purified, we want to get knowledge. But the underlying mood with which we come to hear from the Bhagavatam is what? What is it what's the mood in which we're hearing? What are we here to? Are we here to get? Or we're here to continue the sentence? Are we here to get? Or are we here to
give and to serve?
To give and to serve. Who said that? Venu Madhuri. See, Venu Madhuri got initiated and she can answer.
I'm just here for a good time.
No. See, yeah. We're here to give. And what is it that we're given? We're here to give. It's a little vague, Venu Madhuri. What is it that we're given?
Your good time. That's what
Bhima
you're given.
Prabhu.
You're given your good time. That's what you're
Oh,
given. You can't. There's
okay.
nothing you can give Krishna that he doesn't already have.
There's one thing. There's one thing. There's one thing you can give to Krishna. Only one thing. What is it? Love. A little vague. Jeffrey Prabhu. A little vague. Let's narrow it down. What is it that we can give? Our only asset. The only thing that we truly have to give. What is it? Starts with A, as an apple. Attention. Yes, Jeffrey Prabhu. Yes.
That's called good time.
Okay, fine. Yeah, you see, everybody is here to give their attention to Krishna, and Bhima Prabhu is here to have a good time, which is fine. We're not judging Bhima Prabhu. Yeah, sometimes we may think, oh, this speaker is not my favorite speaker, and I've heard him give class before, and I wasn't impressed. So that's not the mood. We come to hear from the devotee who is representing Vyasadeva somehow or other. They're speaking in our life, so we should come with and give them attention. And Krishna is so wonderful that he will make us hear what we need to hear. Even from a foolish person, we can hear some profound truth. There was one king in the Bhagavatam or somewhere in the Shastra. He was being carried on a palanquin, and he was kind of dozing off, and the sun was setting. And then one of the carriers kind of shook him up a little bit and said, Maharaja, you can't sleep, wake up. The sun is setting, you can't be sleeping during the sunset. And it was just not necessarily mere like etiquette or Ayurveda advice. He said, wake up. And the king took it in such a profound way. He thought, yes, my life is setting. It's time for me to wake up. So that's the process of hearing. We should give our attention, and we should hear in the right mood. And we're here to serve and to give. We're not here to get. Get. Forget it. You've done this before for lifetimes. It didn't work. Start hearing with the given attitude and see what happens. Hare Krishna. Okay, was that okay, Bhima Prabhu?
You forgot to finish that argument because you are getting. And that's what keeps us going. That's what ruchi is. That's what the drop of honey on the outside of the jar is. Krishna just doesn't keep us on the other side of the glass. He does give back. as Prabhu was saying, Jagannath, he was saying that Krishna surrenders. He's the best surrender. You know, his is the highest surrender. His is the perfect surrender. And who's he surrendering to? He's surrendering to our love, which is incredible, which is the most incredible thing in the universe, is that Krishna surrenders to our love. So that's something to think about. We get
Yeah.
Krishna.
Yeah, Krishna gives himself, right? When Arjuna, Krishna's friend, was given a choice, he went for Krishna. He didn't go for his army. So Krishna does give himself to a sincere devotee. Thank you, Bhima Prabhu. Okay, Sa has his hand up.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to elaborate too much on this, but I agree with Bhima. I think it might be a bit of a controversial concept, but some of us come from places where there's much how do I say injustices, and I like to think that maybe seeing people or jivas that have been tortured is almost like a living testimony for Krishna's grace. Thank you.
Thank you, Sa, for being so vulnerable. Thank you so much for sharing this. Yeah, very true. Krishna consciousness is real, and we may be coming from all kinds of backgrounds. But Krishna is there to heal. Krishna is there, right? Jagannath Gopal Prabhu, is Krishna there for us? Does he come through when we need him?
Yeah, he comes through, but what I've learned and heard is that it's not that he will come through in the way we expect him to come through.
Yeah.
So he'll come through in different ways. He'll come through in ways which is required for uplifting ourselves. So yeah, sometimes that is difficult to digest. Sometimes it just doesn't fit into our own framework of what is right, what is wrong, what is good, what is bad, and so on. But then yeah, I guess we need to keep that higher inquiry going. We need to keep that consciousness that yes, there is someone beyond me in this world that is taking care of me, some higher force, and from there we can proceed, going closer to Krishna. So yeah.
Thank you,
Prabhu,
Jagannath
can you
Gopal.
elaborate, Jagannath Gopal, could you elaborate on Krishna's Leela as the great trickster, as among gamblers, I am the cheat. Do you have a pastime or something that you can, that will obviously bloom from your heart, that you remember, that shows how Krishna gives us what we want, but not exactly, he gives us what we need, and the humorous ways in which he does that?
Sure, Prabhu. One is like when you said cheater, so the butter stealing of butter came to my mind. But there is one more example from Mahabharata that is very interesting, and so this is when Arjuna's son Abhimanyu was killed, and Jayadratha was one of the warriors who was responsible for that killing. Like he was the one who orchestrated it. So then after Abhimanyu was killed, everyone cried. Even Krishna, he cried because Abhimanyu was a great devotee of Krishna and Krishna was his uncle. So everyone cried. Arjuna piteously cried. And then Arjuna vowed to kill Jayadratha. So he vowed to kill Jayadratha before sunset. So, and that was his vow. And if not, he was going to kill himself or something like that. I may not remember correctly there, but he did vow to kill Jayadratha before sunset. Now, what happened is the Kauravas, they knew that if Arjuna fails to kill him, then his vow would be broken and then he'll be vulnerable to be killed. So then what these Kauravas did was they set up a huge army in front of Jayadratha. So miles and miles long army they kept in front of Jayadratha so that Arjuna cannot get to Jayadratha. Now Arjuna, what he did was he was very angry, and he was very affected by his son's death, which is natural. And then he just started, slaughtering these soldiers to get to Jayadratha. So he was going on and on, fighting the whole day. It was very valorous in one sense, like the skill that Arjuna displayed in that pastime. And then he went, there was some distance remaining between him and Jayadratha. There were some soldiers, but the sun was about to set. And Arjuna is, he's increasing his intensity, 2x, 3x, 4x, but he's unable to get to Jayadratha. And it was seeming like it was almost, everyone was sure that Arjuna will not get to Jayadratha before sunset. And there Krishna did a trick. So Krishna, first of all, he let Arjuna try his best. He let Arjuna, really try his best, really pour his 200% in that. And then finally, Krishna did a trick. What he did was he covered the sun with his Sudarshan disc. When he covered the sun with his Sudarshan disc, everybody thought that the sun has set now, and the soldiers cleared away. Everybody was rejoicing. Yes, it's sunset, and that's it. Arjuna did not fulfill his vow. And then as soon as everybody cleared out and Jayadratha was right in his, what is that, gun point or arrow point, so to say. So as soon as Jayadratha was in his arrow point, Krishna moved the Sudarshan disc from the sun. And then the sun, came out again. And then Arjuna shot Jayadratha. So yeah, this is one rather serious, it was not humorous, sorry, but rather where somewhere Krishna let the devotee do their 200%, and then he did a trick to so that his devotee's vow is fulfilled. So yeah, that is one example. And yeah, this is something that comes to my mind right now.
Thank you, Jagannath Gopal Prabhu. Bhima looks deeply satisfied. Yeah, he's not here to get entertained. He's here to realize God, class by class, page by page, bit by bit. Are you tickling me? This is a loving exchange.
Here I am. You know these lyrics. Here I am now. Here we are now. Entertain us.
Yeah, Nirvana. Yep. Yeah. We're here to serve. We're here to give. We're here to fight. We're here to engage in reciprocal loving exchanges with Krishna, but we have no expectations. Bhima Prabhu. Krishna does give, but we have no expectations. He can handle us roughly, right? You like that? That's your
It's a
mood.
good. It's a good time.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Jagannath Gopal Prabhu. Wonderful class. Dear devotees, thank you for being you, for participating in this yagya so steadily. Okay, Greg, is Lily still around? Can Lily say Hare Krishna?
Yeah, hold on. Hey, Lily, want to say Hare Krishna? You want to try, Lily? Hare Krishna?
Come on, Lily, you can do this.
You
Ah.
got your shot. Said
All
you
right,
want to do
that's
Hare Krishna? No, that's not happening. They're both camera shots. Sorry.
that. Okay, Greg, that's then you say Hare Krishna, Greg.
Hare
Yes.
Krishna. Thank you, everybody. Hare Krishna.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you. Hare Krishna, everyone. Happy Saturday. See you tomorrow. Hare Bol.
Bye, Lily.
Lily, bye-bye.
Say bye, Teddy.
Ciao.
Say bye, bud.